don't go away, because you don't want to miss this great adventure from Ecuador in South America.
My adventure trek to Ecuador began in the capital city of Quito. From there, I traveled north to the Andean village of Ibarra. Later, I journeyed south to Riobamba for a wild 5-hour ride on the roof of a train, exploring villages and meeting colorful indigenous people along the way. Almost every international traveler arrives in Quito 9,000 feet above sea level. Ecuador is a tiny mountainous nation draped across the equator in the northwest corner of South America. It shares a border with Peru in the south and Colombia in the north. Quito, with a population of about 1.2 million people, sits in a deep valley jammed with high-density living quarters. During the summer, it can reach temperatures in the 90s, but I arrived early in January, so it was much cooler. I had come to Ecuador in the middle of a serious economic crisis. The government had just mobilized 40,000 combat troops. The president was facing a military coup. The general population was angry, and the Ecuadorian currency was worthless against the American dollar.
This is Independence Square, historically the most significant part of Ecuador. Usually it's packed with tourists and vendors, but the president of Ecuador has called a state of emergency, and now it's crawling with combat troops and police, and it's impossible to get near the presidential palace.
The military presence could be felt across the entire capital region. Nobody traveled anywhere without proper papers, including tourists. It was a surreal experience walking around, and in a bizarre kind of way, the massive military presence added a new dimension of excitement. It was my first experience traveling in a place under martial rule. Quito predates Colombian times and was an Inca settlement until the Spanish arrived in 1526. It's also the second largest city in Ecuador, next to Guayaquil. Like most Latin American countries, it's Roman Catholic. The churches are great places to explore. In 1978, UNESCO declared Quito a World Heritage Site. Despite the strong police and military presence, I felt secure walking around, and I personally saw no evidence of crime on the streets. A walking tour of the Spanish colonial city can be done in a few hours. The churches, museums, and markets are teeming with people, and the architecture is wonderful.
When traveling in Ecuador, make sure you have a lot of this because you're going to be going there a lot. I think I'll try to blend right in with the crowd.
This is the monastery of San Francisco, situated in the heart of the old capital of Quito. The area holds the greatest cultural interest for travelers, and there's plenty of small restaurants and street vendors, so you won't go hungry. It's also the cheapest area to sleep if you're on a backpacking budget. A decent room will set you back about $10.